35 this year, and the company is bigger than ever. Throughout its long history, Dell has transformed from a PC maker to a technology conglomerate that brings in revenue of over $90 billion a year. But Dell's reputation may be stuck in the past.
The first thing I think of when I hear Dell is my old purple computer that I used to have. That was a Dell.
I knew about Dell Computers from when I was younger, so they're like the first brand of computers that I found out about.
A lot of friends use Dell Computers.
I'm thinking quite reliable computers.
What do you think that Dell is up to today? Do you know anything about what they're doing currently?
I have no idea what Dell is currently doing with their life.
I don't think I know about any other stuff.
They don't only make computers, but they make like other stuff, probably like tablets, maybe one or two phones that I don't really know about.
Maybe vacuum?
When customers first hear the word Dell, they probably think PCs. And it's a very interesting question because we actually believe branding and technology is very important, and that the best technology companies own a word in the customer's mind. Google owns search. Intel owns microprocessor. The fact that Dell was founded as a PC company means that's probably still the first thing that people think of. Now, the company's not called Dell PCs, it's called Dell Technologies. And Michael's emphasized that it's a much different, much broader company today than it's been.
We want to introduce you tonight to the Whiz Kid, a special young man in a hurry. His name is Michael Dell, and he is so smart and so energetic that he's done more in a couple of years than most of us could even dream of doing in a lifetime.
The story of Dell begins in the dorm room of a 19-year-old pre-med freshman at the University of Texas. The year is 1984, and Michael Dell is working out of his dorm room, making and selling customized personal computers. He has called his company PCs Limited. That same year, Apple released the first Macintosh personal computer.
One of the things that set Dell apart originally was their ability to play with other big companies in the tech world. So Dell was sort of a more, I guess you could say, open source company in that it came with sort of a Microsoft operating system and then various different semiconductor companies inside. So you could customize and personalize your PC in ways that you could not do with, say, Apple's hardware, which has always been a more closed source system.
Another thing that set PCs Limited computers apart is that you could order them over the phone. This allowed the company to keep inventory low and offer competitive prices. Michael Dell never became a doctor. He dropped out of college at the end of his freshman year to devote time to his growing business. By 1985, PCs Limited came out with its first computer, the Turbo PC, which sold for just under $800. By comparison, the first personal Macintosh cost close to $2,500. 3 years later, PCs Limited changed its name to Dell Computer Corp. And went public at $8.50 per share. At the time, Dell had a market capitalization of $85 million. Dell's stock price kept growing, and by 1992, Michael Dell became the youngest CEO on the Fortune 500 list. Then, in 1996, Dell began selling PCs online. The move helped the company overtake Compaq as the largest seller of PCs in the world in 2001. In 2003, the company again changed its name to Dell Inc., as it looked to expand beyond PCs to a broader consumer electronics market.
Michael Dell literally made a name for himself with built-to-order personal computers. But now his company has lots of new names: flat panel TV maker, digital music player manufacturer, printer builder, server seller. What's next? Consumer electronics powerhouse?
I would buy Dell and I would just hold it. They have the most amazing business model I've ever seen.
But Dell's hot streak didn't last forever. By 2013, demand for personal computers was stalling, thanks to the rising popularity of tablets and smartphones.
This is a declining business. They sell PCs. Over 70% of their revenue are PCs, notebooks, or PC-related peripherals.
Over 70%?
Over 70%, we estimate.
In the last decade, Dell stock is down, I believe, something like 80%, 50%. S&P's up 80%. The computer hardware index is up 200%.
If Dell was going to survive, it needed to change up its strategy.
The company went private in 2013. We had started a transformation in 2008, beginning to transition from being a traditional hardware provider to being a full-fledged solutions provider. And by the time we got to 2013, the market and the perceptions of the tech industry were changing. Certainly there was a mantra of the PC was dead, that the cloud was going to be where data center workloads were going to be conducted. And we were at a point where we needed to transform the company, fix a few things along the way, and continue that transformation from being a traditional hardware provider to being an end-to-end solutions provider for our customer.
When Dell went private, they made a few changes. They invested more in research and development, they invested in sales and service, and they made acquisitions, and particularly the very large acquisition of EMC, which brought with it VMware, which is turning out to be very important in the new cloud era.
Basically what VMware does is it's a virtualization company. So say back in the 90s, your desktop was your desktop. In other words, you owned a PC, you put things on your desktop, they lived on the hard drive on that desktop. That's not the case anymore. You can log into your desktop on the cloud in a number of different ways. Your phone, your computer. Well, that virtualization, the virtual desktop, that's the type of software that VMware makes.
In 2018, Michael Dell announced his company was considering a number of strategic options to give its private shareholders a way to monetize their investment. He ultimately decided on becoming a public company through an unusual maneuver, exchanging Dell's private shares for a publicly traded tracking stock it owned as a result of the earlier EMC deal.
Dell has become very much a sort of full end-to-end technology company, and that was one of the reasons that Dell very recently decided they want to get back into the public markets, because they felt like there was an investor appetite, particularly among the large hedge fundy. Just aren't that many more of those. Dell was about a $20–25 billion company until it made a huge transaction buying EMC. That deal was about a $60 billion deal, still the largest tech transaction to date, and it made Dell a much larger company. Today, Dell
Action of new revenue came debt. Around the time that Dell announced it was going public again, the company had over $50 billion in debt, in large part thanks to its pricey acquisition of EMC. And despite all of its investments in data storage, Dell's latest SCE filing shows that the largest chunk is things like desktop PCs, notebooks, monitors, and some software products. At about 40.5%, the second largest revenue came from Dell's Infrastructure Solutions Group, which includes storage, servers, data protection, and networking. VMware made up about 10% of revenue, and the rest,
where they own 80% of, and that's a very significant earner today. It's the highest margin business, but in terms of dollars, it would be the hardware businesses.
Dell's main focus really isn't the consumer anymore. It's very much enterprise software and hardware. In other words, Dell is selling to businesses. So they're selling not only servers, and they're selling networking, and they're selling storage for data centers.
Last year we added more than $11 billion in revenue, so that was, some additional industry consolidation there for you. Look, I think customers have told us very clearly they need together, a broad set of capabilities across the infrastructure, security, client devices, the cloud, digital transformation, enabling all those capabilities for customers. They'd much rather work with one leading company.
Top server manufacturer in the United States. Each held 16% of a cloud server market that was estimated to be worth $86 billion.
From a cloud services standpoint, their main competitors in the VMware world are going to be companies like Microsoft and Salesforce. It's going to be Cisco and Juniper and Ericsson and Oracle. And from the consumer PC and printer standpoint, it will be HP and Lenovo and Apple. But it's hard for me to come up with a company these days that really competes against Dell on all cylinders, because Dell is such a diverse
size is very difficult. The company, aside from VMware, is largely an on-premise company, meaning they're selling to traditional data centers. They're not selling to Amazon and Microsoft Azure in the cloud. That business over time potentially could decline. A third risk would be the debt load. You generally don't like to see, I think it's very manageable under normal circumstances, but if the economy goes into recession and they start to have some trouble paying back the debt, investors are going to be concerned.
But through its ups and downs, there's always been one investor that's been willing to back Dell.
I think having the development of a company can be very helpful. And last year we had over $91 million in revenues. I started the company with $1,000 in my dorm room, and it's worked out pretty well. So, the ultimate long-term investor.
As we think about the Salesforce in the marketplace, we have an unmatched global services organization. We have an at-scale advantage supply chain. We have a global financing arm to help our customers. We think this 7 strategically aligned businesses, the distinct collection of assets that the company has, puts us into the cloud in a very, very different way.
Now I am an executive member at the Costco.
Berry with extra berries.
We came for pumpkin pie, actually.
And the king crab legs.
I think some of their customer base is absolutely addicted to Costco.
Welcome to Costco, where everything is huge. And it's been like this for 30 years. From the carts, to the warehouses, to the products themselves, it's a store fit for giants.
It's designed as much for a forklift truck as it is for people. That sense of scale is part of what the Costco experience and the warehouse experience is all about.
And Costco has made billions in revenue from its no-frills model.
Nothing in a store is placed by accident.
Take, for instance, staples like milk and eggs.